What's up, everybody? Welcome to In Love with Horror. I'm AJ.
And I'm Christy.
And today, y'all, will be giving you our spoiler review of Out of Darkness. Now, like I said, spoilers, y'all. So if you don't like being spoiled, go watch the film. We actually highly recommend you go check it out and then come back and join us in this spoiler-filled review because we're going to go over everything. And especially, I think the biggest talking point is going to be, the ending and how people feel about that. But before we jump into the actual review, we'll kind of break down how we're going to do our review. So, well, first we're going to talk about like just the details of the film, like synopsis, and then talk about the characters. And then what we're going to do is break up the review by act. So we'll go over like Act 1, talk about the things we liked in that, and the characters and so on. Then Act 2, and then Act 3, where we'll talk about kind of the big twist or reveal or ending or whatever. So that'll be how we structure our review. And with that, let's go ahead and jump into the details about this film. Starting off with, the film was directed by Andrew Cumming, and it was written by Ruth Greenberg, Andrew Cumming, and Oliver Kasman. And the synopsis for this reads: in the old Stone Age, a despaired gang of early humans band together in search of a new land. But when they suspect a malevolent mystical being is hunting them down, the clan are forced to confront a danger they never envisioned. And that's a pretty good setup to go ahead and jump into Act 1. So let's go ahead and start talking about Act 1 of Out of Darkness. So just like the synopsis said, right, we got this small group of
nomads.
Yeah, nomads who have separated themselves from the bigger tribe in search of a new land. The leader of the small group, Adem, thinks there's better things on the horizon. They like set out across the sea in search of better things, because they kind of mentioned at some point like they're kind of running out of resources or food or whatever where they're coming from. I forgot, one of the characters said we would have died if we stayed anyway. So he's in search of the promised land essentially, and they arrive at this land and there seems to be some sort of mythical creature, god, something that's out there that's starting to pick them off, right? So let's go ahead and talk about the group of characters. So I already mentioned Adem, who's like the leader of this group, right? He's like the alpha, you know what I'm saying? And then we got Bea, who was the stray, right? And it seems like she was like an outcast back in the old tribe, and so they're kind of treating her as such, even in this smaller group of nomads. And then we got Adem's brother, was it Ger? I don't know how to say it.
Gerar, something like that.
Yeah, Gerar. And he's the younger sibling, a lot more like timid and, putting his full trust into his brother. Even if he thinks that decisions are wrong, he just lets him like run with it because he's very much the softer and non-confident sibling. And then we got Ava, who is Adem's mate, right? Mm-hmm. And she's like super pregnant with his baby, and while they're doing all this running around and stuff like that. And then we got Heron, which is Adem's son. And then we got was it Odal or Odal?
I think it's Odom or something like that.
Odal? Yeah, then we got Odal, who is like the just like the old wise man, so to speak. He's almost like an advisor, mm-hmm. Offering guidance to Adem. That's pretty much our group, our main group of or a cast of characters that we follow, or who are making this journey into this unknown land and encounter this mystical being. So let's talk about Act 1. Did you like how the film started? It introed with like a storytelling, and it's basically the story of this group. How'd you like that intro sequence?
I liked it. I think it fits the setting and the times. Like you learn or you write your histories through stories. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was a great opening, and like I said, it just kind of like fits this movie. I think. No, usually I don't really like exposition and stuff like that, mm-hmm. but I think because of this group of people and this where you are in this time period, I think it fits.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. The way they told the story very much felt like authentic to how they might have told stories back in the day, and how the the history gets passed down verbally from generation to generation. So I quite like that aspect quite a bit to give us that context in a way that they would have given context to other people in that time frame.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a great way to start and give us that introduction. And we got our first look to how dark the movie is.
Yeah,
and
it's very dark.
Yeah, the film is extremely dark. Not so much that you can't see where you need to see, but you definitely understand that what the darkness you're experiencing is what the cast of characters is experiencing too. But we also got just a view at the landscape, because we meet them when they're first like arriving essentially. So we get to look at how the area is kind of barren. There doesn't seem to really be a lot, but then they see like a mountain off into the distance, and they're like, hey, there's probably got some good caves over there where we can like start to build a new home in a cave system. And so that's why they kind of like start making their trek out there. And in making this trek, I don't know, is there anything you want to speak on before we get to the point where they have that like initial encounter?
Well, I think that the story time also was a good way to establish how the characters are connected, and also kind of like their personalities and how they feel about each other, I think too. Like you can see that, Bea is more so, connected to the brother Gerar and Heron. And that Ave is not really like a motherly figure to Heron. She's like, he's like, tell me a story.
He's like, I'm not your
and she's
mother.
like, I'm not your mother.
Yep.
And then, Adam's like, tell my son a story. Like, you can tell he's definitely the alpha male, because then she starts to tell him a story. And then the older guy, Odal, he's like, well, I'll tell the story, because obviously he tells good stories and everyone listens to him. Like you were saying, like he's more the advisor type.
Yep.
So when he does start telling the story, everyone's quiet and paying attention to what he's saying.
Yep.
So I think that was a good way to also establish the dynamics between the characters too.
Right.
But yes, go ahead.
Yeah. And that was well said. And, it kind of showed what everyone's role is.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And we learn more as we go along, and different banter across the different, band or the group of people here. So as they start making their way towards this, this mountain that's got, these promising caves.
Yeah.
We start to get like little indications that there's something else that could be here. I think the first one was they found what looked like a mammoth carcass or something. It's like, because we saw like big tusk and it looked like it got obliterated, right? Like there's blood over the place.
Yeah.
And
then
then
Adim and Gerar are like trying to find food. So they're often like running ahead of everyone else.
Yep.
Which I really like the little running scenes. Those were some of my favorite scenes.
Yeah,
Just seeing
good.
them run across the land, like this vast land. There's nothing out here.
Nothing.
But yeah, so that they spend a lot of time like trying to hunt something. So yeah, they do run across this carcass of, well, they saw hair or something. They're like, oh, maybe we found something. But then they saw blood, and then they realized that this already got right.
Yeah, that thing was already done. And Adim made the point of like, I think it was him that said like, this thing was pushed off the cliff.
Oh yeah,
essentially. So he's like, I don't know what would do something like
Right.
that. And they kind of keep that to themselves. But also the important thing you mentioned was, since this area is so barren of anything, they're super hungry. They don't got no food.
Yeah.
So they're always on the search, and they're also super tired.
Right, because they don't have nothing to sustain them.
Right. They don't got nothing. And one thing I was thinking about too, they always talk about hunting, but I don't think I ever saw them drinking water or nothing like that either. Not that I can remember.
I don't either.
I don't think they showed that. So I'm curious how they was getting that water too. But that was their first like indication. And then as they continued to push on, there was one moment where like it was like heavy fog that rolled in.
Yeah.
And Heron started playing like a game with his dad, with Adim, where he was like whispering, and he did see something like off to the distance at one point. And then, surprise, it was really just, Heron who was making the noises and stuff like that. And Adim was super pissed. He was like, why you run off like that?
Okay. I thought maybe it was a mixture of both.
Like the mythical creature was mimicking. I thought that too, like mimicking the sounds that they were making. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I think that was more like a mix. And because he still felt very scared.
That's true.
And I feel like if it was just Heyron, he wouldn't have been as scared.
That's true. Yeah, I can see that, like mimicking what.
Because, like you said, he kind of saw something, and
yeah, he
Heyron
did.
is small, and I don't think what he saw was Heyron.
But it was off in the distance. They obscured it like really good.
Yeah, they did.
Like, because you definitely don't know what it is until they want you to know what it is. And you know, I think up to this point too, like, you know, we were already noticing like the music, like they had like very, like I'm gonna call it like slimmed down in the sense of like core instruments, like very simple instruments, like, you know, like drums. I guess stuff that you might hear from maybe not during that time, but further back in time, a more stripped down, you know, band essentially, with just maybe some horns and some drums, you know, and the audio was very powerful, and it always helped like carry the singing and evoke like certain emotions, or it mimicked how the characters feel. And we're seeing that up until this point with the fog and stuff like that still. But they keep pressing on, and, you know, eventually they get to a point where they can see, you know, the mountain in the distance, but they also see this like vast force. And I think it was it Gareth? He was like, oh, we need to go around this force.
No, it was
I don't know who said it.
It was Edem.
It was Edem who said it? Okay.
Yeah. And then Garai was like, well, that's going to take a long time.
Okay, yep, that's right.
And he's like, well, shit, we ain't going through there. He took, you know, he was the one that was making all the decisions. But yeah, he was the one who's like, we're not going to go through that.
Yep. He's like, I can't do that to them. We can't go to the forest.
Right.
We'd have to go around, no matter how long it takes. And, you know, I feel like that also helped set up like the forest being already intimidating as is. You know, obviously you got this mythical thing out there, but they got this force that they're already trying to avoid, which I feel like added more to this scare factor. Like, damn, like that, like what's up with the force? You know what I'm saying? So they end up making camp, and you know, Ava is starting to get sick because she's pregnant. She don't got enough food. You know, and I think
they went try to go hunt again
during that section. They did.
Yes. Okay. And you know, it was getting dark, so they made their way back. But while when they came back, you know, Edem was like, keep watch. Remember, he was telling Garad to keep watch that night. And so obviously what happens after that. So go ahead.
Oh, okay, right. But what I was gonna say was, you know, I think it was Oda who was talking about how she needs to eat. And I felt like there was one point where he was looking at Bea like, we're gonna eat your ass. Like,
oh really?
That's the feeling I got initially.
I don't know. I didn't catch that part.
Yeah, the way, because like he was looking at her as if like, well, we gotta eat somebody. It's going to be in you, you know, because he's a stray. Then obviously that one scene happened where it was like, you know, but he's basically telling her like, oh, if Ava dies, like you next in line.
Well, that's why they went off. Remember?
What?
Okay, because that happened and Bea went off, right? And then he's like telling him to keep watch because he left to go off and do that thing with Bea.
Oh, right.
And that's why he was all.
Oh, that's why you're saying that part. Yeah. Yep. So we got a glimpse into like, you know, Edem's the mentality. Yeah.
Mentality.
Yep. And you know, obviously things are different back during that time.
Still trash.
Yeah. You got it. So I looked at it from the lens of like that time.
I bet you did.
I mean, you kind of have to.
Ava is so sick that she could die. So he's already like,
he's already
I'm
like,
gonna have to have plant my seed somewhere else.
I need more legacy. Like, yeah, he already thinking that.
That was already like implied anyway, because earlier on, Bea started her period, and Ava was like, "This is a good thing, you know.
Yep.
You know, he's gonna have to have more kids.
Yeah,
and
that's
I
true.
can't be the only one giving him kids.
Yep.
So that was implied that eventually she was going to be next in line to produce kids.
Yep, another mate for her legacy. That's just how they did shit back then.
No, it's trash. But yeah. So he goes off with Bea and basically harasses her because she doesn't want to be touched by Edem.
Yeah, no, she wants to be with Gareth.
Well, I don't know if she wants to be with him or not, but I think she sees him as more of a friend. I think he obviously has feelings for her, but I don't know. I feel like she's too young to be like, I want to be with Gerar.
No, I think. I'm saying I think that she likes him. She's interested in him romantically.
Okay,
I think
I didn't
so.
get that vibe whatsoever.
Yeah, that's the vibe I got. Just the way that they, like, the vibe that I got between them felt like
friends.
Nah, I felt like it was more like romantic, even in like the comforting aspects and stuff like that.
Why can't friends do that?
It didn't feel like just friends.
Okay, well, I'll just tell you how it felt to me. It felt more friendly on her part than, and obviously on his, because when they went off, Gerar knew what was happening, and he was crying.
Well, yeah, because he understands the hierarchy, right? Back in this time, hierarchy it rules all. So like whatever Adem says is what he has to obey.
Right. So while they're off, he is like trying to, play a game or something with Heron for a second.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then how does he get distracted?
I thought just like a sound, like they heard something.
That's right. They did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so they ended up all coming back together. Mm-hmm. Like everyone came back in the circle near the fire.
Yeah.
And then they heard all this movement, where they're trying to like, see what's going on. And then like there was a shot where I think it's looking at Adem, but you can see his son behind him. And woof, like his son just gets snatched into the darkness. And it was like super fast.
It was very fast.
Yeah. Which I think adds to this idea of like whatever this is like
it's quick and big.
It's quick, it's big,
because they
it's
snatched
monstrous.
him up super fast.
They snatched him up like a toy. You know what I'm saying? And then Adem quickly like runs off, but then Gerar stopped him like, hey, like we can't look for him right now. Like it's too dark. Like we can't see the tracks. Like we'd be screwed.
Right. Wait till morning.
Yep. So they waited till morning, and
Adem was like, "It's your fault if something happens to him because you're supposed to keep watch."
Yep. I told you to keep watch. Yep. So Gerard's already feeling super guilty now about the whole thing. But once morning hits, like
as soon as the light hits, it's like it's time.
It's time. Like they go. And so they're doing that. They're going on the tracks, and Ava trying to keep up. Like, she's super pregnant. They trying to tell him slow down, but he don't give a fuck. He's like, I gotta get my son back. Mm-hmm. And then they end up running into the forest, which to me kind of is like, once it gets to the forest is where like Act 2 to me kind of starts. So we'll go ahead and get into Act 2. So they go into this forest and they go pretty deep into it, and they stumble upon it looks like an altar type of thing. It's like this kind of like tarish kind of area, because along the way they're finding this like black gunk on the trail. They found Heron's pelt. It's got this black gunk on it, and they see this black gunk like tar pool almost where this altar is, and there's like all these bones. There's blood, and I can't remember, were they hearing shrieking at this point? Yeah, and I think it was either Odal. I feel like it might have been Odal. It was like, hey, your son is dead. Like, we gotta go. We gotta get out of here. And so they attempt to start running, and they're hearing all this like shrieking, adding to this like, seeing this altar and shit just made you even feel more like it's some sort of deity type of thing. Yeah. So they start running. It's like very suspenseful.
But it starts to get dark.
Yep. But it starts to get dark, and they realize, Adem realizes we won't make it out in time.
Yeah.
We got a whole shop here.
Right.
And so
they put it on Bea to make a fire.
Yep, because she's the forager of the group.
And that was a very stressful scene.
Yeah, and they said they played that really good. Because they're trying
to start the fire before it gets dark. Mm-hmm. And she's just going with the rocks. And she's stressed.
Yeah.
And it's not going at all. I was like, is she going to get it? And the darkness just starts to settle in.
And that was so cool, man. That's why, like, we said it in our non-spoiler out of theater review.
Yeah.
Where it was like, the darkness being its own character, This darkness is starting to loom.
It's like, all right, I'm coming in.
Starting to loom in. It's getting super dark.
Yeah,
she's still
and it gets dark.
Away. And the music is like super heightened, and
it's dark for at least
it's like pitch
seconds.
black. Like you can't see anything.
Yeah,
you
for
just
a while.
You just hear Bea
her rocks
and her rocks going.
And eventually she gets it.
Yep.
Well, you see like.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus.
Yeah, that whole scene and like how it was shot and all that was so dope. Like that worked incredibly well.
Yeah, it did.
And so they finally get this fire going.
Yeah.
And you hear the creature like kind of like around them, right? And Adem is on like, guard mode, and eventually like he can kind of tell where it's positioned. and he throws his spear at it,
Mm-hmm.
and he could tell he
got
hits
hit.
this deity because it shrieks,
Mm-hmm.
and then you could tell he was processing for like a split second,
Yes.
like what he wanted to do, and then boom, he just like takes off.
Yeah.
Dude is gone because he's like,
I do not like Edem as a character, but I do think he's a good leader
yes,
and trying to protect,
yeah,
his family.
yeah. He plays his role as the
Mhm.
leader really good.
Yeah.
And he kind of like takes ownership of like being that leader. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Embracing that the thing that all the things that come with being the leader.
I really liked the way they did the shots in this particular part when he is trying to hear the creature because it's right in his face, right? So
Mhm.
there's moments where he's like moving his head, trying to
Yeah,
follow
that
the
was
sound
cool.
and stuff
Yep.
like that. I was like, oh, that's pretty.
And
cool.
I think they had the camera like just there's a lot of camera movement.
it was
in
a
this
lot
movie.
of camera movement,
And so it was like circling and like you're trying to like tell like where is this coming
Where's this
from?
coming
The surround
from? Yeah.
sound and all that.
Mhm.
But yeah, he took off right, and he's chasing this thing down, and eventually, like he gets to a point where I can't remember if it really let you see the same thing he was seeing. Like he could kind of,
It kind of.
you still could tell.
You could see
though.
something like moving in the
Yeah,
shadows.
something in the shadows.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you couldn't really tell. It was just, but I feel like it added to the increasing the scare factor of the
Yeah,
unknown.
because when I first saw it, I thought about the black creature things from Avatar.
Oh, okay.
So it looked kind of like that in the darkness,
Yeah.
in that scene, kind of like like a dog-like creature, but really big and
Yeah.
black.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me.
And so he gets to a point where he stops because it's close by, and he's trying to like figure exactly where it is. And I think does it cut away before he
Mhm.
actually see anything? Sees
Yeah.
like it gets up on him, right? It cuts back to the group who's still at the fire,
Yeah,
and all you hear is him start screaming. Yep.
and he's calling Gerard's name.
Yep.
And he's like, "Damn, what do I do?"
Yep.
So then he goes.
It took him a while
It
to
took
like
him a
get to
minute,
that point. Though.
yeah.
And then no one wanted him to go either.
Because
They
they
were
were
like-
like, "You're gonna die."
You're gonna die if you go. But he's like, "Fuck, it's my brother. I gotta go."
Not just that, but he feels like they need him. Like they needed him. They feel like that they can't
Oh,
survive
true.
without
Yep.
him. So he's kind of like, well, I have to go save him because if not, we all gonna be dead.
Right, that's true, and I'm sure Garrett doesn't really want that responsibility
no,
too. So I'm sure also probably playing this mind, we're like, I have to get him because
Yeah.
well, I can't do it. So we're like you're saying, like we'll be fucked anyway.
Yeah.
So he goes out there, and
We don't see anything that happens out there because it only shows the people like waiting
Yep,
like, to
it
see
shows
what's
them
gonna
waiting around.
happen.
And then eventually some time passes, and you start to hear rustling near them.
Mhm.
And you're like, oh shit!
What is that?
Like, is it gonna be a dim? Like, it's gonna be like a table reverse where Garrett got.
Oh yeah,
But eventually it shows that Guerrero did get a dim.
but Adem is jacked
Adem
the
is
f up,
jacked. Like his daggone jaw was like
hanging
ripped and
on by a thread.
hanging, and it was good.
was really-
Special effects was really good.
It
in
was
that part.
really good, but nasty.
And he was making like weird
Gurgling sounds. It's
gurgling.
like-
Yeah, it was just nasty. And eventually, they're kind of like, look, we got to put this dude out of his misery.
Yeah,
Like,
and no one else could do it. I was like, I bet you I know who will.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
Bea.
The Bea, she stepped up. She
stepped up with glee.
Oh,
she
yeah.
was glad to take his ass.
Oh yeah, she was. Obviously Guerrero hesitated for I think for two reasons, right? It's one is his brother.
Yes.
But then two, he didn't want to be the leader, no way.
Yeah.
So that meant like, oh man, we kill him. Like I gotta step up.
Right.
But Bea, she did kill him, put him out of put Adem out of his misery.
Yeah.
Which the concept of killing off the leader, like at this point, I thought was genius because now there's this heightened fear
Yeah,
factor.
It's
It's
like, how they gonna make it out of this?
damn, how they gonna get out of this?
I know.
Like you're
I
feeling
was
like
like,
you're the
wow,
only one that they
This
can
was
fight.
very unexpected. I didn't expect the leader to
Yeah.
be taken out so soon.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, how they gonna survive?
Yep, and that adds to the heightened suspense. But Bea takes him out, and then obviously, Ava's getting sick again. Everybody's hungry as
she
hell.
like falls out and convulses,
Yep,
and they're like, we need to eat. And Bea's like, we got something to
we
eat
got
now.
something to eat now. Like, he was looking at me earlier, like y'all was gonna eat me anyway, so fuck it, we gotta eat him.
They didn't all want to do it, obviously, and
Oh,
Gerard definitely don't. Or is it Gayer? That
Yeah.
sounds more bad.
Gayer didn't want to do it,
Gayer didn't want to do it. Yeah,
and Ava didn't really want to do it either.
she
but,
didn't want to do it, but she knew she had to eat to
Yep.
survive because
Yep.
she didn't want to lose her baby.
Yep.
But yeah, so they cooked them.
Yep.
Well, they cooked parts of
Bea
it.
was over there cutting some pieces of meat off.
Yeah,
And I like
it was
that
really
shot they had
nasty.
where like you can only see her back. You
Yeah,
see her
she
going like this.
yeah,
and
it's
she's
really
over
gross
there
'cause you can
slicing
hear
meat
it.
off. Yeah, it was
But
nasty.
she offers to Gayer, she's like, "Do you want to do it, or Are you gonna do it? And
He's
he was like, no.
He couldn't do it.
Or she's like, or they were asking him to do it.
Mhm.
And then she hands him the weapon. She's like, take it or, move out my way and I'll do it.
Yep.
And so he just really, he's very soft.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He couldn't do it. But that scene was just nasty because like it was almost like ASMR mode.
It
'Cause
was.
you hear all them like
All of
munching and
They were
they
chewing
made it
on
nasty.
it.
They definitely didn't make the fact they had to eat this other human.
And then Ava
pleasant.
was like gagging.
Yep.
But she kept eating.
Yeah.
It's like, and
Now-
then she kept eating it.
Now, by the way Bea was eating, you would have thought this meat was like some
I didn't-
Wagyu steak or
she
something.
was chewing like that, but her
Mhm.
face was like really like set. Almost like, I don't want to eat this, but I gotta
I gotta
survive.
survive. Yeah.
She
Mhm.
definitely has that mentality throughout the movie. Like,
Yep.
all she's thinking about is surviving.
Yeah. Yeah. But that whole sequence I thought was super well
Yeah, it
crafted, and
was.
super dope. But anyway, so morning comes and now
It's on
Guerrero wants to take the mantle, but O'Donnell was talking a lot of mess.
And he
though.
was like, nah, you can't do it.
He's like, you can't do this shit. Who gonna follow you?
Mhm.
Now everyone else did though.
They
They're
did.
like-
They
they're
did
like,
follow.
They gave him the opportunity.
They gave him the chance,
Yep. It's like, well, we gotta follow somebody.
but he ruins it.
Yeah, he messes up. He leaves them in a whole loop.
They
He go-
went in a circle.
Yep, they went. They walked around. Next thing they see a Dim's body, and they're like, "Damn!" And then that's when they're like, the confidence is lost.
Everybody left.
like, oh, we're
They were
fucked.
like, damn.
Yep. And I don't remember if they hear the creature or not. I think they do.
Mm-hmm.
And Adal takes the religious approach.
Yes. He switched up the game.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, we're going to have to give it something. Let's sacrifice
Offer something. Yep.
to this deity and maybe they'll let us get out.
Yep. And so now they're trying to figure out, well, what can we sacrifice? And
Well, that was actually very quick, I thought, decision.
Well, yeah. And he automatically says something like, we need to offer like a great sacrifice.
Right.
Which
Well,
means
he says a stray, which we've already heard from
Mhm.
Adem, like you were there for whatever we need you to
Yep.
be. So in this case, we need you to be a sacrifice.
Yep.
So Ava and Adal try to take her,
Yep.
drag her down to the altar area.
Yep.
I was like, dang, these
And
people are ruthless.
Guerrero tried to stop them, but he ends
He
up getting
did.
knocked
He get
back,
knocked
and
out.
he hits his head on the ground.
Yeah.
He's knocked unconscious.
He's knocked out for
Yep.
I was like, that's so dumb.
Yep.
They did Guerrero wrong in this movie.
Oh yeah, and we'll get to the later on in the movie, but so they end up dragging off Bea to the altar area, and they they hold her down, and O'Donnell's like, hey, we got this offering for you, speaking to the deity out there, because I think it's still like close by. You can hear the deity. Which they made the shrieks and all that weird sound. It sounded creepy.
Yeah, super creepy.
Yeah, and and I felt like it was cool because we sound scared of it, and they also scared of it. Like it just worked really good. But they're offering up Bea, and I can't remember exactly who. I can't remember exactly how the sequence of events happens, but who does she like hit first to like escape? She does something to escape. I can't remember exactly what she does.
She hits the other guy, the O'Donnell guy.
And that's when he breaks his leg at that point? Or no?
No.
That was later.
That was when the other girl, she did that to him.
Okay.
But yeah, she hits the O'Donnell guy and gets
Mhm.
away.
Yep. So she runs off.
Right. But
And
the
then
thing is still
It's still right, like
still
right near
coming.
them. Yeah.
Right.
They hear the shrieking and coming.
He takes it upon himself to stab Ava in the side.
Which I didn't see coming.
I didn't see that coming either.
I was like, oh snap. That was
Yeah.
crazy. So he stabbed Ava in the side, but then she did she grab his leg?
Yeah,
or hit it?
because she's like down now. So she grabs him and then he falls and he breaks,
He breaks
his leg
Yeah, the bone just came right out.
out of his knee. Yeah, that
which
was
is
really nasty.
That was pretty good. Because O'Donnell was like, "Oh, here's a new sacrifice," but she's like, "Hell no! Like you gonna be sacrificed right with me."
Yeah, but then it
Um,
gets dark, and I was very surprised that the creature thing didn't take any of them out while it was dark.
Dark, yep. Mm-hmm.
So, because when it comes back to light,
They're still there.
they're still there,
Yeah,
which is very interesting.
yeah. I thought that too. I felt like it kind of put a twist into like, okay, like
Wow.
what does this thing want? What is it doing?
Mhm.
And so morning comes, and we got Bea kind of like sneaking around,
Mhm.
and she goes back to the altar area. And she kind of was like hiding. And,
Yeah. But she sees that the other dude is O'Donnell is still alive, but
Mhm.
now Ava's dead. She
Yep.
probably bled out.
Yep.
And then she sees the thing
Like drag
snatch her body.
Yep. Just just drag her right off into the we can't where you can't really see.
Yeah,
I think it's still a little dark a little bit.
It was like that early morning.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
And then you see O'Donnell kind of like, all right, well, this is it. So he starts
he's
talking.
Just laying there. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then you see his perspective of this thing coming towards him.
Yep. And he's like staring at it like in awe, almost like.
Then he kind of like faints or something.
Yeah. Like staring at this thing in awe. And I think it was at this point where Guerrero was like out walking around, right? He's
awakened and he's trying to sneak back through too as well. But then Bea finds him.
Yep.
That got me actually. Yeah, that was a jump scare
where she like grabbed him, was like
shut
the fuck up.
Oh shoot, no.
Yep.
I thought he was getting got from the creature.
So now they're both, kneeling down looking at the creature.
Yeah.
And Bea makes like a whistling sound.
And I was like, oh, I know she did.
And I like the way it did it because like she did the whistling sound and it cut to the creature.
And it moved his head towards where she was.
Right, yeah.
And I thought she was setting up the rar.
And then when the camera came back, Bea was gone. So I was like, whoa.
I thought
like
she was setting him up.
Yeah. And then it cuts back to the creature and it's like crawling on the ground. Yeah. Like it looks super weird.
Super weird.
And creepy.
Like, what the heck is this? Because when you finally see it, it looks kind of like maybe what a bird would look like because it has like this feathery thing in the back.
Yep.
And then the front head almost reminded me of like the head from the Silent Hill dude because it's like shaped.
Oh, like a triangle.
That triangle shaped. And it's got this big hunk thing in the side of it. I was like, what the heck is this thing?
I thought it was some sort of like, bird tree god or something like that.
That's what
but
it
looked
looked like.
Godly. You know what I'm saying? But it gets closer to Gare and then Bea like comes out from the side and like grabs his head.
Like, oh, okay.
And like pulls it.
She was trying to trick it.
And it like it comes off. She's like holding it, like looking at it.
And I was like,
and then the camera cuts back. And
it's a mask.
And it's a mask and it's a Neanderthal.
It's a Neanderthal. Yeah.
Was it Neanderthal?
Yeah. And then she screams. The Neanderthal screams.
Yeah, screams.
The shrieking sound.
The shrieking sound, like as to see if they're still intimidated.
Yeah,
like a fear, like a scare tactic. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then Bea's just looking at it, and then that's when the thing is like, oh, I gotta run.
And it starts running, and it's fast.
That Neanderthal was fast as fuck.
I was like, dang,
because Bea and Gare start chasing it, right? And Gare a little slow because he just got up from being knocked the fuck out. Yeah. So because Bea's like, come on, like you gotta find it. Let's go.
And he was like giving up, but she's like, no, we gotta follow it because
it's gonna lead us to the cave.
It leads us out.
Yep.
Right.
And or it knows the way out. Yeah. It knows the way out of the forest. So they're running after this thing. They follow it and they get to the top of a hill, and that Neanderthal is like already way down out there. And I was like, how did he get that? How was it? I don't know if it was a woman or the dude.
Mom. The woman. Yeah.
I was like, how did she get that far that quick? Like she was gone. But that was enough for them to know. Like, okay,
the forest.
Yeah. We're out of the forest. We know where to go.
But Gary's like, I'm done. Yep. Why we need to keep chasing behind it? And Bea tries to explain to him like, we're here we got to survive now. It's just me and you. We need to know, where they are because wherever they are, they're surviving.
Yep.
So if we get where they are, then we can survive. We need to take that, the home that they have, and then make it ours.
She's in very much like survival mode.
That's it
like,
for her.
He
does ask her like why, and she's like, I want to survive.
Yeah, she's like, I ain't playing this game. Like we got to set up shop. We got to make it. We got to survive. But with the reveal,
how did you feel about that?
Yeah, so before we jump into that, I was gonna say, like, with that reveal, like we're basically officially in like the final act of this film, right? And so with that reveal, I was actually cool with it because I think I was so dead set on it being like an actual God type thing that it didn't even process in my mind, like 100%
that it was
that it could have been like a human being because of all the signs that like point towards, oh, this is a real, because when you see Adem's face so jacked up, you're like, man,
how did this happen?
Yeah. And then like it's like pulling and dragging bodies so easily, like it's strong as hell. The shrieks, like, they definitely like set you up to be like, man, what kind of godly entity is this? So like I was very shocked.
That's why I think they had the creature or the person actually screaming so you could understand how they were hearing those sounds. It was actually coming from this body. It was so crazy.
Yeah. So for me, I like the twist because once you see it, you're like, okay, that makes so much more sense now. Like that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It doesn't explain how they're so freaking strong. They're like freaking. Well, I don't know.
I think Neanderthals, I thought they were like bigger-ish
Oh, were they
kind of
I don't
human
know
beings
my history,
anyway.
I ain't gonna lie.
I don't know, it's super good, but I think they were like bigger and stronger versions of human beings.
Okay.
So in that respect, like it kind of explains it a little bit.
Okay. Well, they were definitely strong. I'm gonna tell you,
They were
that,
strong as hell
to be able to do the stuff that they were doing.
But I thought it was a cool twist. Like it felt good to me. It didn't feel cheap or nothing like that because they really had you convinced that it could have been
I
a deity.
wanted it to be something creepy and scary.
You did,
but I mean, I understand
Mhm.
why these people did this, you know,
Yep.
which I'm sure we'll talk about that in a little
Yep.
bit. But yeah, I don't know. I'm on the fence about it.
yeah,
I was kind of wanting it to be something really scary, you
right,
know?
yeah.
But
But I thought it was cool because it allowed this movie to be something different and then go into
yeah,
the deeper meanings of the movie.
well, yeah,
And then also, like, if it would have just been a godly thing and they tried to find a way to kill it, I would have felt more cliche.
Mhm.
But now you have something that's a little bit more, I don't know, just
I get what you're saying.
interesting by the
More
fact that, like,
original
oh, this is
Take,
a little
I guess.
different.
Yeah,
But yeah, let's dive into
the
basically
final act.
the final act of this movie. All right, so they start, going. They follow the Neanderthal back to the mountains. We get like a little sequence of shots of them, climbing the mountains and making their way towards the caves. And Bea's like, it's in here somewhere.
Then they make their first mistake,
Yeah, they split up.
which was so dumb.
I don't know why they did that.
I was like,
They don't know better
why
back
the
then, I
heck
guess.
did they split up?
Yep.
Ugh.
But they split up and they each start making their way into different entrances in this cave system. And the suspense in this part was, I thought, really cool.
Yes,
Because it was
it's very
very like
quiet.
tense.
And all you hear is breathing. And then
Yeah.
it's also like some storm happening. So then you hear like this thunder and
They
you
had
get flashes of lightning.
Yeah. And she's breathing like real heavy because she's
Mhm.
scared.
Yeah.
She's got her, and the camera's always like close up and you see the breath.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It just made you feel like it gave you a lot of anxiety.
You're right.
You know what I'm saying? You're
Yeah.
like, damn, this is suspenseful as fuck.
Yeah.
But she's making her way through this cave, and eventually she hears like movement through like a
Mhm.
little small tunnel.
Right.
She crawls through the small
She
tunnel.
crawls in, following the noise.
Yeah, I was like, dang, she bold and brave as
She
hell.
is brave.
But she crawls through this tunnel and she encounters another.
This is a different
Neanderthal.
Neanderthal.
Yep. And they start fighting.
And he's
essentially.
whooping her ass.
Yeah, 100%. Because like they're obviously they're
He
stronger.
was really big.
Yeah, they're way stronger than they are. But she ends up getting the upper hand.
Yeah.
Because he was like choking her ass out, but then
she
used her
pretended,
knife.
or I don't know if she pretended or not,
Yeah,
but she was basically very still. So he's thinking she was dead.
She's dead,
And yeah,
yep.
she uses her
knife
knife.
to cut his neck,
Mm-hmm.
and then she finished his ass off with the spear.
Yes.
And
And
then
in the midst of that, she's calling Gaer's name.
right,
So
yep,
he follows
the sound.
the sound.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So when he gets there, she's already gone, and he just sees the Neanderthal in the ground,
spear
and
in
he
his
just
back.
wishes it. A
Yeah,
little
he
more.
kind of like ensures,
yeah.
which I was like, oh man, maybe Gaer gonna step up, and
No.
be ready.
Gaer does
Uh,
not step up in this movie.
So Bea goes further into the cave
She
system,
does.
and she gets into like their camp.
Yeah.
It's got a
Like
little
an inner
fire
room.
going. Yep, it's got a
Mhm.
fire going in there.
It's got pelts on the beds.
Yep.
Like it looks
And then-
very homey.
Yeah, and she sees movement in the pelts,
Yes.
and
She approaches it.
she approaches
thinking
it.
it's she's someone she needs to kill.
Right. Yep. And remember, I think I even said to
You did.
I was like,
You tell
what
me.
if that? I was like, what if that's Haran in
You
there?
did tell me that.
And sure enough,
It was
Haran's
him.
tail popped up out of the pelts.
He's okay.
Yep.
100%.
And Bea was like super
She was
shocked.
shocked.
Like, what the heck? Like, we thought you were dead.
And then here comes the female Neanderthal that
The
they
mom.
met in the woods. We're calling her the mom for a reason. But yeah, so she's ready to fight.
Yep. So now it becomes this, like, battle over Haran,
Mhm.
essentially. And Bea's in protect mode.
Right.
Because, now she feels.
She thinks that Haran was in danger or
Right.
being like held captive.
Right. Exactly.
But he's like, no, don't do anything. Like,
Yep.
don't kill her.
Yep.
And then,
Well, she picks up the fire from the.
well, yeah.
and she's
she
like,
does.
trying to keep her back.
Yeah.
And then, you better say that.
Yeah. Gaer
Gaer,
finds his way into the
Yep.
inner room and he's in shock.
he sees Haran. He's
He
just
sees
like,
Haran. Right. And I think
frozen.
that's what messes him up.
Yep.
And this is why I don't think they should have split up. Because that wouldn't have happened if they were together.
Yep. But Gaer is frozen in just like shock, right? Because he can't believe that
Yeah,
Haran
Haran's
is
still
alive. and it's almost like he's seeing a ghost, like he just can't believe it.
Like,
and then the mom
he has no instincts whatsoever.
None. And then the mom's right there, so she turns around and he's still just standing there. And then she smacks him in the daggone head and he falls to the ground. And at that point, I'm just like,
and she goes ham.
I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. It was very stupid.
That was stupid as hell.
I was so like, why are you taking him out? He didn't have to die.
Right. He didn't have to die. And yeah, he's in shock, but it's like,
eventually he could have got his wits
right. He would have saw the movement and then kind of like snapped out of it and been like, oh shoot.
Yeah.
Like and done something.
Yeah.
But to just stand there, and it's not even like she moved fast.
She didn't.
She just turned over there.
Came over there. Yeah.
Yep. And then
this is so stupid.
Yeah, that was like the only part of this entire movie.
This is the second stupid part. The first part was splitting up.
Oh, well,
it's like obviously you know that this creature knows these woods and these cave systems like the back of their hand to be able to move the way they were moving in the darkness.
Yep.
And you mean to tell me you're gonna go in behind this creature alone?
Yeah.
That was the first mistake.
Yeah.
The second mistake was his letting him be shocked to paralyzation.
Yeah.
Where he can't respond at all.
Respond to the threat. Like that's literally right next to him. That
he didn't have no fight or flight response.
None. So that was frustrating. I hated that part.
Yeah.
It's the only part I disliked because it was just like at least I allowed him the chance to fight.
He didn't get no chance.
Get the chance to do that.
So he's dead.
Yeah, she was like going ham on his head.
But while he's going ham on his head, Bea is like trying to get Heron out.
Yep.
So they got a little bit of a little leeway where they are a little bit ahead of the female Neanderthal.
She threw that thing down.
Yeah,
she started to fire with the pelts.
Right. Yep. She does throw down.
So it starts filling up with smoke and stuff.
Right. So they're exiting, but the Neanderthal creature is on their tail.
Yep.
But they do get out.
Yep.
And she comes out halfway. And Heron is trying to pull her out, like to try to save her.
Yep.
But Bea is like, not today.
But she actually was saying Heron's name.
She was saying
She's like
Heron's
Heron,
name.
and then she was speaking like a different language.
She did.
Yep.
Right. But anyways, Bea kills her.
Yep.
And he's like, why did you do that? She was feeding me. She was taking care of me.
She's keeping me alive. She taking care of me. Yep.
Yeah.
And
so he thought she took him from everyone else to help him, to save him.
And, this goes back to the beginning of the movie where he didn't have a mom figure.
Right.
So I think the fact that she was taking care of him like a mom,
Mm-hmm.
he took to it a lot because he didn't have that.
Right.
Because even Ava was like, man, ain't your mom. All he had was his dad. So
Right.
it's like, oh, I have a mom now. So I'm sure that also helped him take to her even more so.
Right.
But yeah, he was super hurt by that.
He was very hurt. He was like, where's my dad? And she's like, they're all dead. And
she's like, they killed them all.
They killed him. They killed them all.
They killed all of them.
Yeah.
That's what she told him.
So it's just them two.
Yep. So it's just them two. And, they were walking off and basically showed them kind of like setting up shop in the caves. And
then they also discovered, Bea feels as though she was wrong for killing the Neanderthal.
Yep.
She saw that they had, when they took Ava's body, they actually made like an altar for her.
Yep.
And
to honor her.
Right. And her baby.
Mm-hmm.
And we learned that Ava also had a lot of loss, like a lot of babies had died because she had a necklace with a bunch of babies around it.
Oh, right. Uh-huh.
And so they learned that part. And we thought about, these creatures didn't actually, when Neanderthals never really actually killed anyone.
No, they didn't.
They did hurt them, but
that's because he was trying to hurt them.
He killed them, right?
Yeah.
He threw the thing at them.
So they already
they were
threatened.
responding to his threat, right? They took Heron to feed him and to take care of him. And Ava, she was stabbed by Odal, and he died because I think he died of like a heart attack or something because he kind of like faints from seeing the
He just couldn't believe what he was seeing. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And obviously they did kill Gare because she was in a protective mode at that point.
Because she felt responsible for Heron now.
Not only that, but they were in their home. You
True.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they were in
so just like
home.
if someone came in your house,
That's
you'd be
true.
ready to shoot. I already know you'd be ready to shoot somebody.
That's true.
So
we ain't playing that game.
Yeah. So their whole thing was them trying to protect their home.
Yep.
And they came up with this thing. I'm assuming other people had probably encroached on their land before.
Mm-hmm.
And they had come up with this as a way to keep people out in a way.
Protect
because
their home.
the resources were obviously limited.
Yep.
There wasn't a lot of like game and stuff like that from the hunt. So they're like, well, we have to do what we have to do to protect ourselves. And that's all that they were doing.
Yep. And one thing I want to mention too was when, Bea and Heron was having an interaction. I forgot exactly what she said, but, Heron was like, oh, they were like us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she was like, no, they were monsters.
Yep. And
But then afterwards, she realized that they were like us.
they were like us. And I think Bea at the very end was saying something like about like, you know, trying again, or you know, to basically do it over, like trying to, you know, actually be friendly towards, like, you know, different people
who look different.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like, you know, well, one, that's the end of the movie. It ends with them like, well, I think with her like standing there at the mouth of the cave or something like that.
Yeah.
And
that's a good point about, you know, trying to be more friendly, but it also had to be on both sides.
Yes. That's a big thing I said after we watched this film, was like, the messaging obviously is about, you know, not treating differences as like a threat.
Right.
And, you know, obviously it's on both sides, right? Is, you know, hey, let's say that the Neanderthals off rip were being inviting. They could have now became like a whole group that worked together. You know, if both sides came to the table with the intent of being friendly, now a friendship could be built.
Right.
And I feel like that's one of the big, you know, social commentary things on this movie is, hey, like, no matter if we're different, we're still the same. We're still human beings at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And we gotta, you know, work together to survive, especially in harsh environments. You know, don't look at the differences as a threatening thing just because it's new and different.
Yeah.
You know, give the opportunity to have that open communication, to be kind, to be friendly to each other, be respectful.
Yeah.
And then you can actually, you know, build something and thrive. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But yeah, I feel like that was the big commentary, like for this film. Did you have anything else you want to speak on the messaging with it?
Nope.
Okay, so let's jump into like our final thoughts then. So you want to go first? You want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Final thoughts. I really enjoyed this movie. I would watch this again. I feel like this is a very rewatchable movie, which I feel like is very rare lately.
Yeah, I do agree. It's very rare. Yeah, it's very rare.
There's a lot of things I really loved about this film. The performances, obviously, we didn't talk about this, but the language, we talked about it a little bit in our non-spoiler review. But yeah, they use a linguist to combine different languages together, like Sanskrit and Arabic and other things. I forgot the other one was, but to make this language, and it was very it came across like very authentic and you know, genuine to the times. I like the setting. I like looking at movies that are set in different, you know, time periods, and I don't think I've seen a horror movie set in the Stone Ages, so I thought this was cool.
Yep.
I did not like what they did to Gaer, whatever his name is. I feel like they did him wrong.
Yep,
That was my only downfall with this. I really liked his. I thought, like you even said this, we thought he was going to get a character arc, and he didn't.
Of redemption. And becoming the new leader and gaining confidence.
Yeah. Nope. It would have been such a great ending to see him rise up to the occasion and become the leader for him, Bea and Heron, and then set forth their new, village or tribe together. But nope, we didn't get that.
Yep.
And I don't know if it was because they wanted to, I don't want to say this in a bad way, but like make Bea the hero because she's a girl. I don't know if that was like what their intention was. Yep. And then Gaer had to suffer the sacrifice for that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I feel like she could have still risen up to be the hero and kept him alive.
Yeah, I agree. Yep.
But so that's my only dislike about this film was that. Yeah. But everything else, I loved it. The music was good, except for this one scene I didn't really like it in. But yeah, and obviously the camera work, the cinematography was absolutely gorgeous. Even in the darkness, just like seeing the people's faces with the fire in the background was just really beautiful. But yeah, it was a good one for me.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said, except for the audio thing.
I know.
Yeah,
it was just that one scene.
Yeah, and the scene that she's talking about was the scene. Was it when Adem was getting?
It was before that, when they were listening out, when they were getting, Adem was out there, but it was before you heard the noises. But you can see like I get what you were saying, like seeing what they were feeling, like, oh shit, what's about to happen type of thing. Yeah. But that music to me.
I thought that was after he got hurt or something.
Was it after? Well, I don't know. It was when they were alone. I know that. And Adem was in the forest. Yeah. And then they were kind of like, just in this stressful moment.
Yeah.
But it just seemed very overpowering to the scene to me.
Yeah. And for that scene, I feel like it worked because that was the intent, to make you overwhelmed, scared, and just not really knowing what to do.
I was already overwhelmed and scared. Then
they
you
gotta
have to put that extra
they gotta
music on
heighten
there.
it, make you feel like how the characters feel.
And before they went into the forest, there's this shaking of the cameras. Like they was like they just like that.
I can't remember.
Oh yeah, I was like, well, that's a little much.
I can't remember that part. But very much like what you said, I actually really like this movie a lot. Like I honestly loved this movie. It had its hooks in me from the beginning.
Which I'm actually very surprised about because you don't really like, historical or period pieces.
Well, see, that's the thing. I don't like period stuff. Like,
well, this is a period.
No, what I mean, like, like typical period stuff, like, medieval, like, or like Victorian.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really care for that stuff. But I think because this was so different than that, like you said, like Stone Age.
Right.
Not a lot of movies in Stone Age.
Right.
Since it was so different. I think that added to like, I'm seeing something I've never seen before.
Oh, okay. Because you were very quiet. Well, you were usually quiet, but this time I was like, he must be bored. Because the first, opening sequence there's nothing really going on but them telling the story and then you seeing them kind of like doing what him telling the story is about. Mm-hmm. So I thought you would be bored.
No, I was actually the exact opposite. I was very like, just engrossed and immersed into the movie. Mm-hmm. And like you said, the language added more to that, right? Because the language sounded legit. Like it sounded like a real language.
Well, technically it is kind of.
Well, yeah, they made it up, but they use other languages. Yeah. But the language sounded so good and it added to, because you have to read subtitles, I think, because you have to read the subtitles, it helps keep you locked into.
Yeah, okay.
Because you're like, okay, I don't want to miss what they were saying.
Okay, maybe that's what it is.
And the cool thing about the subtitles was it never felt like, they never talked super fast. Mm-hmm. So I always felt like I was able to read the subtitles without being like, it was too fast. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like even if you're a slower reader, like you could still be able to capture everything that's being said. Because sometimes when you watch like foreign films,
right?
Sometimes in moments where they're talking really fast, the subtitles are going really quick. This movie didn't really have that. So, but this movie was incredible. Like, I don't think you gave it a rating.
Oh, I didn't know we were doing ratings.
I don't know. Do you want to?
I have to give it 4, only because of how they did my dude. Yeah. I just felt like he needed that redemption arc, and they took it from him. I didn't like the some of those decisions, like the breaking, like splitting up, like that was just too dumb for me.
Yeah,
and I was slightly disappointed that it wasn't actually a creature.
Oh, okay. But yeah, this movie was incredible. The like you said, the audio, the soundtrack. Mm-hmm. The music and it having the stripped down feel, but being like still having this weight and adding to the suspense of different scenes and the drums and the blares of horns and the concept of the creature and then the reveal, it being not, like I thought was genius to help kind of subvert your expectation, but in a good way. Because sometimes people will try to subvert the expectation just for the sake of doing it. Yeah, but with not having any real story impact, but this one made sense.
It does make sense.
Okay, that makes sense. Like that's cool. Like, okay, I see what y'all trying to do here.
Yeah.
But the performances were all incredible.
They were super good.
The performances were legit. The creep factor, the scare factor, like it was all there. Like it's just it's a movie that pulls you in, and you just are sucked in until this movie ends. Mm-hmm. Like you said, the only part that I didn't like was what happened to Gare. I would have liked to have seen his arc happen a little bit differently. But that's more of like a personal thing. Like I'm not going to penalize the movie too much on that, but I do wish they would have handled that just a little bit differently. But you mentioned the camera work. The camera work is amazing. Like the transitions added to the confusion, which I thought was incredible.
One scene, when they were lost in the woods, and when Gare was supposed to be leading them out, and then you're following them. Across the screen, and then they loop back around again, coming back across. That was probably my favorite.
Yeah, and it was just cool because it added to like this lost suspense,
out here, lost in the woods.
Yeah, this lost, confused feeling, and it was all so seamless, like the way they did the camera work. And the movie just looked really good, and they handled darkness really good. And it was like not the kind where it's like so dark you can't see what's going on. It's very intentional about where the film is dark and where it isn't. They handled nighttime and darkness like just so well.
Yeah.
But this movie surprised me. Like I already kind of felt like it had potential to be good.
When we saw the trailer, we thought,
this looks good. But this like actually blew me away, honestly, expectation wise. And honestly, I would give this like a 5.
What?
Yeah. I like this movie a lot. Now, granted,
a 5, babe.
Yes. Like I liked this movie that much.
That is
like,
crazy.
You know, remember how we walked out Thanksgiving and I felt really good? Like this was a different feeling because, you know, Thanksgiving more has you like hyped.
Yeah.
This one's like, it's more like dire and depressing what happened. But when I walked out, I was like, damn, like that was a good movie.
I am shocked.
That's how I felt leaving the theater.
Wow.
Like, you know, that doesn't always happen. I walk away and I'm like, damn, that was a good movie. That's how I felt. I was like, the price I paid for the tickets, like, I'm glad I paid that price for this movie because it was so good. You know, and that doesn't happen all the time. A lot of times you're going to be like, wow, like, this movie's so stupid or so dumb or so trash. But
well, yeah, I don't have any problem supporting this film. Actually posted about it in a horror group that I'm in after we watched it. Just because, you know, look at the cast. There's some beautiful looking people right here.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Like, I was like, y'all need to go support this film, support Andrew Cumming, what he created, because I think he made a really good movie here.
Yeah. And I don't know if this was his first feature film or not. I was trying to check. I'm not entirely sure. It looks like he did a lot of TV stuff. So I don't know if this is his first feature film or not. But if it is, like, damn, that was a crazy directorial debut.
It was good.
But yeah, highly recommend checking this film out. Obviously, it might not be for everybody because someone commented on our non-spoiler that they walked out after 30 minutes, and I was like,
people walked out,
really?
And other people, you know, that when I have talked about it, said they didn't really like it either.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, everyone's different.
Everyone's different, and you know how we do over here. We keep it real. We give you our honest opinion.
Yeah.
We don't ever bandwagon on nothing. Like, we give you our real thoughts, and I can honestly say that I actually like walked away and loved this movie a lot. Like, I was so satisfied with my experience walking away. But that's our final thoughts for Out of Darkness, y'all. Let us know down in the comments below or over on the Spotify Q&A part. What did you think about Out of Darkness? If you've seen it, did you like it as much as we did? Did you not like it? You know, discuss your reasonings for either way down in the comments below. What were your favorite scenes? All that good stuff. And if you watched to the end of this, thank you so much for tuning in to the entire spoiler review. We really appreciate that. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe, make sure you follow on the podcast channels.
Leave us a review.
Leave us a review on those podcast channels as well. And just make sure you subscribe, y'all, to join us in the discussion on all things horror. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.